Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger. Up next on the GM, has the Baltimore Ravens coaching become a problem? Let's talk. You see, I posed the question concerning the Baltimore Ravens coaching because I'm watching kind of week in and week out around the league for those teams who are successful, right? Those teams that are winning teams, those teams that are 2-1 or better, right? And I know we have a short sample size, but there is a consistent theme happening on those winning teams, and that's coaching is not a deficit, but a benefit. And I believe that the coaching on the Baltimore Ravens has become a problem. It has become a deficit to the full development and effectiveness of this team. You see, it's been easy to kind of point at John Harbaugh as one of the culprits, and he is a culprit. You know, we've talked about for a couple of weeks and also into several years where his game management wasn't good, situational management wasn't good, decision making wasn't good, time management was not good. And I think that stench has begun to spill over onto his offensive coordinator and also his defensive coordinator. You see, when I look at yesterday's game, the Baltimore Ravens seemed to come out with a game plan and they executed that game plan to perfection or as close to perfection as possible, at least through the first three quarters, right? It was as if every lever that the Ravens coaching staff was pulling was working. Then all of a sudden, Justin Tucker misses a field goal, and for whatever the reason, that gave momentum to the Cowboys. And from that point, they went on to score 19 unanswered points. The Baltimore Ravens couldn't even muster a field goal to respond to the Dallas Cowboys' 19 unanswered points. And so I think one of the problems is although Justin Tucker missed a kick and then Zay Flowers fumbled the onside kick, right? The offensive play calling and defensive play calling should have been and could have been much, much better. We understand that Lamar and Derrick Henry had ran downhill and did basically what they wanted to do for three quarters. We understand that. But the fact of the matter is, um, any coach knows that when you're trying to salt away a game, you're going to do it with the run, not with the pass. So what the Dallas Cowboys know? The Dallas Cowboys would know that that's what the Baltimore Ravens are going to do, especially because the Ravens had been successful running the ball the entire game. So Dallas was set up to stop the run. And so the Baltimore Ravens would go like 5 plays, punt, 6 plays, punt, and then and that one drive they went 3 and out. And so the interesting thing is, why did the Baltimore Ravens go conservative? There was no need to go conservative. You don't go up 28-6 by being conservative, and you don't maintain that lead by being conservative, right? The Baltimore Ravens don't have the credentials this season to be conservative. They don't have the defensive credentials to say, you know what, y'all gave us a big lead, now we can hold it. They don't have any evidence of that. Okay, so for Todd Monken, who had to be affirmed and confirmed by John Harbaugh to make the decisions he made concerning the play calling, for him to go all the way conservative and just say, you know what, we're just going to go Derrick Henry, we're just going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, which is fine until you recognize that Dallas is stopping the run. But unfortunately, just like always, they didn't make any adjustments. They didn't integrate the short pass in that second half, especially in that fourth quarter, and it almost costed them the game. How do we know they didn't reintegrate the pass? Because Lamar Jackson at halftime, if I remember the stats correctly, he was 11 for 12 at that point, which means he only threw three additional passes, or either he was 10 and 11 and he threw four passes in the second half. Now that doesn't make any sense because even if you have a big lead, 28-6, right? This is where you need to work on situational game stuff. You need to work on the plays you hadn't pulled out. You need to see if you can execute the crossing route, if you can execute the deep ball. When you have that kind of lead, this is when you pull out some extra things to see if you can get those things off against live competition. But no, we just gonna turn around and run the ball, which is fine, right? I understand you got Derrick Henry, he ran 25 times, 150 plus yards, and that sounds real good until you look at how the game turned out, right? And if Lamar Jackson doesn't pull off that play to Zay Flowers, we're in trouble. Because when I jump to the defensive side of the ball and we talk about the defensive coordinator, Zach Orr, the question has to be, why can't this team make a play to stop the bleeding. Yeah, I know Calvin Noy has been playing well even at his advanced age. I understand that. But why can't we ever call a play that gets a sack to close out a game? Why can't we ever make an interception? Why can't we ever make the play to close out a game? This game was shaping up to be very similar to how last week's game turned out, where the Baltimore Ravens had a 10-point lead and lost. Right? And that's why I say Nate Wiggins actually won the game with the punch out of the CeeDee Lamb catch in the first quarter. Because if he doesn't make that play and the Dallas Cowboys at minimum get a field goal, we lose this game because we don't have a way to stop the nose bleeding. Once the bleeding starts for this team, we don't have any answers. Somebody tell me something. I understand Zach Orr is a new DC, but he knows his personnel. Wasn't he there last year? Right? So how can you have Marlon Humphrey back healthy and in better shape? You have Marcus Williams back healthy, and this defense is worse. And not just worse, WORSE, but WORST. It's the worst in the league. We walked into yesterday's game being the worst defensive, the worst team against the pass in the whole league, allowing on average 285 yards per game. Well, Dak hit us up for 379 yesterday, which means that moved that average up to something like 330 plus yards per game is what we give up in the pass. So we created a greater distance between us and the 31st team. How can this secondary be trash when everybody's healthy? It seems like they may have made the wrong decision with the coaching hire. Somebody tell me, drop that in the comment section. Is the defensive backs coach the same? Because I'm not sure of that. I didn't check into that. But something with the secondary is off. Something in the secondary is way off because they are some trash. And it's not going to get easier. See, because what teams will do? Here's what teams will do. Teams will just say, you know what, we're going to come in and we're going to try to run the ball. And if we can't, we're just going to throw it deep. See, because this team is undisciplined in some ways to where we know we're going to get some penalties. We're going to get some defensive holding penalties. We're going to get some pass interference penalties. And we just be able to move the ball like that. You see, when you're trash in the secondary, the referees aren't going to give you any leeway because you've been bad all year. And so I think that's why we get so many penalties, because we look undisciplined as a secondary. It's just bad. And it doesn't seem like, whether it's offensively or defensively, it does not seem like we can make adjustments. As long as everything is on script, we're okay. But you let one thing get off script and we let go of the rope. And that's coaching at all levels. Head, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator. It's bad. And I think that unless we tighten up, and I don't know if we can, because like we talked about last week, responsibility, culture, and character starts at the top and flows down. So when there's inconsistency in the head coach, there'll be inconsistency where? In the coordinators, which means there'll be inconsistency in the play. We don't even have the bend but don't break defense anymore. We just bend and break and get done in. That's what we do. Ain't it interesting how we put so much money into the defense, and this defense is some trash, especially when you look at the back end? It's bad. And let me point to how you know that it's coaching versus playing. I understand that players play the game and coaches coach. I get all that. And coaches handle their business in preparation and then on the sideline, and players actually do it on the field. But here's how you know that it's coaching. The Carolina Panthers got their first win on yesterday. Against who? The same Raiders team that we played and lost to last week. The same Raiders team that we had a 10-point lead on last week. Now, the Carolina Panthers may have a better offensive line than we do. They may have a better wide receiving corps than we do. But when it comes to defense, from front to back, we have a more of a name brand household name type players. You know, Meta BK and Michael Pierce and Roquan and Marlin and Williams and Kyle Hamilton. Right? You can't name anybody on that Carolina defense but Derek Brown, who's out for the season, and Shaq Thompson. Now you can, J.C. Horn is a pretty good player, but he's mostly hurt. But he's been okay this year. But the Carolina Panthers walked onto that field and bust the Raiders down yesterday. That game was not even as close as the end scoreboard says. How? How could the Carolina Panthers beat up on the Raiders, who came to our home last week and smashed us up, taking a 10-point lead away from us and giving us an L? How could they do that? It was coaching decisions. It was coaching decisions. It was a defensive coordinator in Evero, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, I probably didn't, who had a scheme ready to execute, right? After losing his best defensive player, to execute it. It was an offensive coordinator and play caller in Dave Canales who said, you know what, we're going to run the ball and we're going to throw the ball and we're going to make some things happen. Old Red Rifle from the Cincinnati days, in the division days, hit them up for 319 yards yesterday. And then you had Deontay Johnson go over 100 yards yesterday for the Panthers, and you had Chuba Hubbard go over 100 yards. Now, how did they have that offensive output and shut that offense down defensively, and we couldn't? Coaching. That's the difference. See, because it takes some guts. Drop the G at an N to say, you know what, Bryce, come sit down. Take the number one overall pick that you also traded players and picks away for and say, you know what, brother, you playing like some trash. You come sit down, Andy, you get the call. And they come out yesterday smelling like roses. Chuba, you take the ball, you hit the holes, you run hard. We're going to keep feeding you, and we're going to make this thing happen. Offensive line, y'all block like this, and we're going to make some things happen. Defensive line, stop the run, defend the pass, solid, be in the right place, right time. We're going to get out of here with a win. That's coaching. That's how you know, see, because the Carolina Panthers holistically don't have better players, but they had better execution because their coaches put them in the right place at the right time to execute how they needed to execute. I know any given Sunday and all the other cliches that we can give out, but in Baltimore, the coaching is some trash. And unless we're willing to admit it and call out our coaching staff and hold them accountable as a fan base, stop giving them your money and getting a less than adequate product. Because if we keep feeding the beast, it'll keep growing. And I'm tired of seeing this lackluster performance from our coaching staff. We seem ill prepared to face weekly competition. We seem ill prepared to take somebody's best punch and respond. I wonder, Buffalo has changed their identity a little bit in case we didn't recognize. Buffalo has become a hard-nosed team. They want to run the ball and throw the ball. Sounds like what the Ravens were supposed to be, run the ball and throw the ball. Meaning run first, throw the ball second. But that's what Buffalo has been doing. And then they've been being in the right place, right time defensively. I wonder what we're going to look like on Sunday against Buffalo. I wonder, because there will be a punch from Buffalo. I wonder, will we be prepared to respond? Or will we let go of the rope like we did over these last couple of weeks? I don't know, but we'll see. We'll talk about Buffalo starting on Wednesday. I'm your guy Boulanger, and I'm out.